Morning, YouTube. I'm saying morning because it is 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday for me and James, because we've had Friday night in, doing our usual night in, few beers, checking out some hi-fi. And tonight we've been checking out the new Sony little speakers that I found in the charity shop the other day. Now these speakers are Sony SS CP555S, little two-way bookshelf speakers, and I found these in a charity shop a few days ago for the bargain price of £10. Now I have opened them up my other channel, and I've been right through them and gave it a little service, because all the connections and that was loose in them, but now everything is nice and tight, and these little Sonys are sounding pretty good for a little cheap set of speakers that I found in a charity shop. And I did find a set of speakers today in a charity shop, because where I was working today there was a charity shop right there, so obviously I went in it to have a look, see if they had anything. So as soon as I walked in there, straight away on a shelf I saw a little set of JVC bookshelves. Now they were smaller than these Sonys, but they looked really good. A little set of two-way bookshelves, and they did look like they was made out of a really nice dark wood. So they looked really good, and I thought, oh, they look nice. So I went straight over to them and picked one up, and straight away I realised they was not made out of wood. They was made out of really cheap plastic, and they was a really cheap set of speakers. So they looked good, but they wasn't good. And while I had the one in my hand, I felt the driver on it. You could feel it had coil rub, so that driver was not working properly. And then I looked at the price, and they was marked up at £25. So obviously I put the little JVCs straight back on the shelf and did not buy them. So if you walk in a charity shop today and you see what look like a nice little dark wood set of JVCs with a £25 price tag on them, trust me, do not buy them. One of the drivers has had it and they will sound terrible. They will not sound as good as my £10 charity shop Sonys, because these things on this Sansui do actually sound pretty good. Me and James have been playing a load of stuff through them tonight, so we started off earlier with a bit of In Excess. We was playing In Excess Kick album, which is a really good album. So we was listening to that while we was on the computer really. We was looking at amplifiers, speakers and receivers. Now I rephrase that actually. We wasn't just looking, we was bidding as well. Because I had two things in my watch list that finished tonight. The first one finished about 7 o'clock, and it was a Pioneer A400 amplifier, but I got well outbid on that one. I did think I was going to, because it is Friday night about 7 o'clock and everyone is on the computer bidding at that time. So I did think that I would get outbid on that Pioneer, but as the saying goes, you got to be in it to win it, and I want one of them Pioneer A400s. So I had a little bid, but tonight was not the night. Then next up, about 7:45, was a set of Rourke Prologue 1 speakers. Now they had like a little skinny floor standing speaker. Well, they're not that little. They're skinny. They're like a really skinny floor stander. But I tell you what, they sound absolutely fantastic, them Rourke Prologue 1 floor standers. So there was a set of them on the computer about 15 miles away from my house. Collection only. And they had a split in one of the rubbers on one of the drivers, so they wouldn't need a new surround put on them. But they looked in really good condition other than the split. and I thought I was going to get them. I really wanted them, so I whacked my bid in at the last few seconds, and I did put in a fairly high bid. I did think I might have won them for what I put in, but I didn't. Again, I got well outbid. I was really surprised what these rooks made. So obviously other people realised how good them rook prologue ones are. So that was it. I won nothing tonight. I had a bid on two things and got outbid twice. So the next item that finished that we was after was at 10 o'clock, and this time it wasn't me after it, it was James that was going to have a bid on it. And it was a Sansui AU661, and it looked mint. Unlike me that only buys stuff that doesn't work, this one was all working, the one James was after, and it did look really mint, and that finished at 10 o'clock. So he set an alarm for 5 to 10 on his phone, and then we sat on the sofa to do some proper listening to these Sony speakers on this Sansui. So the first song I put in was Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man, because I wanted to check out the tweeter on these Sonys. And I'll tell you what, the tweeter on these with that song really did a lovely job. Everything was crystal clear. Dusty's voice was really nice. And you got to think, these speakers are a cheap little set of bookshelves. So I had to give it to these speakers on that song. On Dusty Springfield, the top end on these speakers was really good for a little set of speakers. Didn't it, James? Don't you think? Son of a Preacher Man sounded well good on these little Sonys. He said, yeah, it did. They're pretty impressive for a £10 set of speakers. Oh, James, you can't say that yet, mate. He just said that this set sounds better than the other set. Oh, James, you can't say that yet. We haven't done enough testing with them, mate. And it could be that song, Dusty Springfield. That song has a habit of making everything sound really good, and I don't think we had that song on the other set, so it's far too early to say this set sounds better than the other set. We need to do that on another Friday night. We need to get both sets on the table together and do a little video where we battle them out to see what set of the Sonys does sound the best. It's too early to say yet, mate, but you never know. It could be this set that sound the best, and these ones are CP555S, and they have got a 30mm tweeter in them and a 5-inch driver. Now the other ones, the tweeter is a little bit smaller, it's 25mm, and the driver is a 4.5-inch driver. But the other set have got a Kevlar driver, so it could be this set that actually sound the best. We'll have to do a battle and find out. So that's them there, and that model is SSCPX1, and as you can see they are very similar looking, and I have had both sets open and been inside them. They are more or less the same inside, so all they have got as a crossover is one capacitor stopping the low frequencies going to the tweeter. So that is all they've really got inside these Sonys. So there's the other one there, look. So they look exactly the same. The ones on the table are about 1.5 inches taller, and they are about 1 inch wider. So the only difference really is a little bit of size, and one has got a Kevlar driver and these ones on the table haven't. And I do think James was getting a little bit ahead of himself by saying the ones on the table sound better than them other ones. Because believe me, I have had them other ones sounding really good. I've had reggae going through them on this Sansui, and I've been getting a load of bass and that out of them. So it's far too early to say what ones sound better out of these Sonys. So after we had Son of a Preacher Man, we had a couple of Norah Jones songs, and we had a bit of Nina Simone, just checking out the tweeter. And the tweeter on these little Sony bookshelves really did a great job with everything I played through it tonight. So I do quite rate the little tweeter in these Sonys. Now, I'm not saying these speakers have got the greatest top end I have ever heard. I am not saying they are better than a set of Rogers LS35As. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, for the price you can get a set of these for, the top end on them is pretty decent sounding for what they are and how much they cost. So next, after we checked that tweeter out, I wanted to do a little bit of bass testing, see what that driver's got in it. So in the CD player, I put Kraftwerk, a song called Autobahn. Now tonight I put in the extended version that I own, and it's a remastered version, so it is on a better quality CD than the normal version. It is a better recording, and it is a better recording. If you play that song on a normal CD and then you put this remastered one in, the bass you get out of this remastered version is on another level. So it's a really good track for testing out the drivers on your speakers. Because if your drivers are weak, this Kraftwerk Autobahn will show that up. Now, it's not fast and lively bass, it's just slow and deep bass. But it really can tell you whether a driver can hold a bass note or not. Because a lot of little cheap speakers really would struggle with the beginning of this song. It'd be too much for them and they would not sound good. But these little Sonys done a great little job with a bit of Kraftwerk, didn't it, James? Had a nice bit of bass going on through these little speakers, didn't it, mate? He said, yeah, it was pumping, and it was pumping. We was really getting a decent bit of bass out of these little tiny bookshelves. It was quite surprising how good they sounded with a bit of Kraftwerk going through them. It really was. Because you got to look at it, these are very cheap little speakers, but with that Autobahn going through them, they did not sound like a little cheap set of speakers. They sounded like a decent set of speakers. They really did. It surprised me how good they sounded on that track. What's that, James? No, it didn't sound like that, James. What James just said was they didn't sound like the Pentas at your old house. And no, they definitely didn't. And what James means by that is, at my old house, I had two sets of Bang & Olufsen Penta speakers, the big tall silver floor standers. I had them running off a Musical Fidelity preamp, and that was connected up to two Lin power amps. And we used to sit in this room and play that Kraftwerk track, Autobahn, through the four Pentas. And the room was far too small for them speakers. It was only a little room. I'd nothing in there but a sofa and four of these Penta speakers sitting right in front of you. And you just used to sit on the sofa and turn it up, and you could just blow yourself away in that room. You was like the man sitting in his chair in the Maxwell advert, wasn't it, James? Yeah, he's laughing. It was funny. It was ridiculously loud in this room, and we could get so much bass out of these Pentas in there. I'm surprised me and James ain't both deaf after I had that set up in that little room. And my missus was just as bad with it. Sometimes I'd get home from work, and the moment I pulled up out the front of the house, I could just hear them Pentas pumping. and I'd open the front door and she'd be sitting in the room listening to AC/DC Thunder, and she'd have it cranked right up. Cool, it did sound good. That AC/DC Thunder, it was another song that sounded fantastic in that little room through them pentas. So anyone that ever tells you that your speakers are too big for your room, don't listen to 'em, and you have your hi-fi however you want your hi-fi. And to me, that setup I had in with them pentas in that little room, although it was ridiculously massive for the size of the room, is one of the most fun setups I have ever had. It's one of my favourite setups of all time. I just loved them pentas in that room. Fantastic, wasn't it, James? Yeah, he's nodding his head. He knows how good it was. And them Bang& Olufsen pentas, I had the original ones from the 80s, the big ones. And when I watch things about them on YouTube, people tend to mug 'em off. Now, I think them people that mug them big pentas off, they really do not know what they are talking about. Them pentas are fantastic. Not with the original Bang& Olufsen amplifiers, because they come with an amplifier built into the speakers at the bottom. Get rid of that, it is no good. You need to get them on a decent amp, and then them pentas are something special. And that reminds me, I haven't wrote them on my list yet, because I'm doing a list of all the speakers that I've had before that I want to get my hands on again. So that has just reminded me that I need to write Bang & Olufsen pentas down on that list. And I have already started making videos about my lists, because it's all the stuff I'm after for the channel. So the first one I've made is amplifiers and receivers that I'm after. So that video will either be on just before this one or just after. So after we'd had a bit of craft work and Autobahn, I thought I'd put something on to cheer James up, because his alarm had gone off and he too had been outbid. So there was no Sansui 661 for him. So, to cheer him up, because he was so gutted he missed out on it last night, I put in SL2 on a ragger tip, and we turned up the little Sansui a bit and got these little Sony bookshelves really pumping. And the little Sony surprisingly just took it in their stride. So when that had finished, I flicked the CD forward a few tracks and went on to SL2 again, but this time we had Way in My Brain, and the Sansui got turned up another notch. And me and James are dancing along on the sofa and proper raving. Well, we have had a few, and it is Friday night after all. So after Way in My Brain had finished, I switched the CDs and I put in Awesome 3, Don't Go, Kick Like a Mule mix. And yeah, as soon as that come on, the Sansui got turned up another notch, and the little Sonys really were pumping. Believe me, for a £10 set of speakers on a vintage 15 watt per channel receiver, they was really having it. And me and James was having a lovely time, and we was really having it on the sofa, dancing away. But then all of a sudden the door opened and the rave come to a very quick end, because it was my missus at the door, and she was not very happy because she felt rather ill tonight after her little escapades with the pina coladas last night. So she had gone straight to bed tonight, and me and James had just woke her up, and she was not very happy, and she shouted at us both to turn it down. In fact, the word she used was, "Will you two sort it out? You're acting like a pair of teenagers." And then she went back to bed, and me and James just looked at each other and both laughed, but we knew there was no more turning it up for us tonight. We had been told. So basically, I stick by what I said last night. I think these little Sony speakers are the best tenner I have spent in a long time. They sound really good for what they are. And on this little Sansui, they've got a nice top end to them. They can deliver a decent bit of bass. And when you turn them up a little bit, they don't start distorting. They can handle it pretty well. So although they're not the greatest set of speakers in the world, if you're on a right tight budget and you're looking for a little cheap set of bookshelves to run on one of these little Sansuis, I don't think you go far wrong with a set of these Sonys. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.